आप तो जानते ही हैं कि जब चुनाव का समय निकट होता है तब आमतौर पर पूर्ण बजट नहीं रखा जाता है। हम भी उसी परंपरा का निर्वाह करते हुए पूर्ण बजट नई सरकार बनने के बाद आपके समक्ष लेकर के आएंगे।
Thanks a lot for staying with our budget coverage here on CNN News 18. I'm joining you from the CII gathering in the national capital. You're joining the broadcast with me, Shivani Gupta, and I'm joined with none other than Mr. R. Dinesh, President, CII and Chairman, TVS Supply Chain Solutions Limited. Thanks a lot, Mr. Dinesh, for your time. Is there a lot of anticipation ahead of this budget, or is there an understanding this is a vote on account and therefore there are going to be mild expectations?
Thank you, Shivani. I think if you look at it, there is an expectation that there will be continuity.
Yes.
And that this will set the direction for the budget later, right? So for us, I think considering all the geopolitical issues which have been there, the biggest concerns was what is happening globally. So if I look at it in that context, I think India obviously is in a very, I would say the most ideal situation. So continuity and making sure that there is a clear direction being set for the future is how we look at this interim budget.
You're right about the global scenario. Of course, we're still recovering from the pandemic years. But ahead of this year, given how we've handled those concerns over the last year or so, what were the top industry concerns communicated to the government from yourselves?
No, I think we were actually expecting that the government will be able to manage this geopolitical scenario in three different ways, right? One is obviously managing the inflation, which I think between RBI and the Finance Ministry, they have been able to handle very well. Second was making sure that India remains insulated from the global crisis, so to say.
As much as possible.
As much as possible. You can never be completely insulated.
Yes.
Third, which I think was I would call it very deft handling of making sure that the fiscal deficit was maintained without really losing the focus on growth. So the focus
yes. No, go ahead.
The focus on growth and a focus on inflation without affecting the fiscal deficit, I think, has been one of the best methods of handling this situation.
So you mentioned how India is in an ideal situation given what is happening, but there has been a lot of criticism of a few things as far as the Indian economy is concerned. Why do you say that we are in an ideal situation? I know that the global markers are very much in India's favor, and international agencies have of course appreciated India's efforts, plus the outlook is very positive. But ideal according to you, how so?
So I think it's very difficult to have I would call it a marker of an ideal, right? Because it's a moving goal. And expectations always keep changing. Once you have something, then you expect something more. But if you look at what has happened with the rest of the world, like I said, on these three factors of growth, inflation and managing, so to say, the fiscal deficit, every country has had the issues post coming out of COVID. India managed the COVID situation brilliantly. In fact, to our surprise, or to, I would say, the initial ask which we had, I think the government did not focus on consumer spending but made sure it spent on infrastructure. So if you look at why I believe this India is an ideal situation, is this focus on infrastructure has meant a big change in terms of both the factors, ease of doing business and cost of doing business. The logistics cost coming down supports manufacturing. So there is a domestic market. India is becoming more competitive, and when I mean more competitive, not just from business itself, but also from the digital public infrastructure which has been created. That for me is a very big differentiator from the rest of the world. That is the reason why I believe it's a very unique positioning today, or a unique opportunity today. On the geopolitical side, you have the rest of the world looking at India as a strategic trusted partner. You have Indian economy growing at a very good rate. And compared to the rest of the world, let us say, even the forecast for this year is 3.1% rest of the world. And here we are by IMF, and here we are speaking about, at least CII's view is it will be in excess of 7% in 25.
Right.
So if I keep all of these factors in mind, I think good domestic market, geopolitically trusted partner, focus on cost and ease of doing business. I think you can't get any better than this.
You also talked about continuation, and you're absolutely right. Of course, the government has already showed a lot of confidence that they're going to present a full budget post the election. So that's of course on the political side. But I do want to ask you, if this government was to show its intent on those markers, plus markers, particularly the infrastructure spending and the control on the deficit, two of its highlight issues, do you expect that in this interim budget there will be that intent shown on both of these markers?
Yes, I believe so. I think this government has completely walked the talk in the past as well. So I think there would be obviously necessary support required for various other actions, which I'm sure there will be a direction about. I think the finance minister mentioned about, see, one of the other focus, or rather let me step back for a minute. One of the reasons why we have had very good growth is that there has been a focus on, I would call it the lesser growing sections of the business and the population. So that equitable growth requirement is something which obviously is important also from the economic side as well. Therefore, we do expect that both of these factors will be maintained. Direction should be given for continuing the equitable growth story.
Okay.
And last but not the least, make sure that the direction is set for the future.
If I was to talk about any one highlight that you are looking forward to, I'm not sure if I can use the word big bang given that it is an interim budget, but the big highlight that you are looking forward to, what would that be?
I think it's very difficult to say one, but I will put it in a different way of saying continuity with clear directions being given on how the future is going to be. So rather than be specific big bang, I will say it is these two messages which will come across the budget is what we are expecting, and that will be the real, I would call it, joy for everyone.
All right. Mr. Dinesh, thanks a lot for talking to us, and of course we look forward to interacting with you post-budget as well.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
You.
On that note, we're slipping into a very short break, but don't go anywhere. We're inching closer to the Finance Minister's speech, and of course our coverage will continue with experts in just a bit.